like a scene from a science fiction movie. And New Yorkers, who are pretty well prepared for anything, this is a city that's always rich in incident.
Alan, we're now looking, if I can just interrupt you for a moment, if you'll excuse me, we're looking at pictures now live from the Pentagon. We can see the devastation that has been caused there. Fire tenders attempting to calm the scene down by spraying water there, but the whole building, or certainly one significant part of the building, appears to be completely charred and burnt out by the impact of this plane which flew into the building just a little while ago. This was the third attack in an hour at the heart of US government. There will be a statement shortly, and we shall wait on that. President George W. Bush has already spoken. He appeared to be visibly shaken by the impact of this terrorist attack on his nation. He said that the full resources would go to help the victims. He called it an apparent terrorist attack. It would seem that there can be little doubt now that that is indeed what the United States of America has suffered this morning. Let's go to Helen Wright, live in the ITV newsroom with the latest. Helen.
Kirsty, it's a confused and unfolding picture that we're getting from the United States at the moment. I've just heard reports that a light aircraft was seen somewhere near the White House before the explosion at the Pentagon. And the latest I'm hearing about what's happened at the Pentagon is that a plane or a helicopter crashed on a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon. And that appears to have something to do with the explosion that's happened at the Pentagon, the heart of America's defense systems. Just to recap on what else that we do know, we appear to be getting reports of 3 aircraft being hijacked. One may have been involved in the Pentagon situation. 2 commercial airliners, a 767 and a 737, apparently involved in what happened in New York, each crashing into separate towers of the World Trade Center. What I can tell you about what's going on the ground: the West Wing of the White House has been evacuated. Areas of the Pentagon unaffected by the crash there have been evacuated. In New York, the financial district, other buildings there have been evacuated. The New York Stock Exchange has closed indefinitely in response to this situation.
Helen, we're looking at pictures now from New York. It would appear from the smoke that we can see that there has either been an additional, in fact there has been an additional explosion near the World Trade Center.
Yeah, as you say, from those pictures
we can see an incredible amount of smoke and fire has been caused by this additional explosion. So to add to the chaos and the casualties, insult to injury, another explosion near the World Trade Center in the center of New York. We're seeing those pictures live now from New York. All bridges, all tunnels into Manhattan, which of course is an island, have been closed. The whole of New York at a standstill, and the emergency services dealing with the scale of injuries and also the scale of this fire. It appears now, looking at those pictures, as if the whole of Manhattan itself is on fire. Kevin Dunn, these pictures that we're looking at now, just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, astonishing and disturbing pictures.
It is extraordinary, Kirsty, and one can only guess at the tragedy that must be unfolding on the ground, because of obviously the priority is for all the emergency services to do what they can to help the victims within the Twin Towers of the Trade Center, and the consequences of what appears to be this additional attack, which has almost engulfed the island of Manhattan in smoke and flame. So emergency services, which were obviously already at full stretch dealing with the initial attack and second attack, must now face the consequences of this devastating explosion in Manhattan, and also of course at the Pentagon itself.
Kevin, this explosion happened precisely an hour after the first hit by the airplane. We think, in fact, it may either be an explosion or it could be that one of the World Trade Center towers has collapsed under the impact. It would appear, from the amount of dust clouds, that we can differentiate there between the smoke and the dust. The lighter cloud looks more like dust, so it could, in fact, be the impact of the plane destabilizing the building and the whole building collapsing.
Yeah, yes, that's quite possible. It's quite possible because we're not seeing any flames or explosions, and after such a devastating strike against the tower, it's quite possible that there could have been further explosions within the tower, or that the tower could have almost imploded and collapsed, which would explain dust and smoke rather than flame.
We heard also there from the latest from Helen Wright in the newsroom, that there is the possibility that a helicopter landed this explosion in fact, let's just take a look at these pictures right now. Oh, just as I say that, there we've got them back. Pictures of Manhattan, incredible pictures that certainly we've never seen the likes of before, and hopefully never again. We're looking at the plumes of smoke travelling from the top of one of the World Trade Centers. If you're just joining us, let me tell you that the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in Manhattan were at the center of an aerial attack from 2 hijacked passenger jets. It happened at 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time in New York this morning. We understand that one of the World Trade Towers may now have collapsed as a result, and the billowing plumes of dust that you see covering the center of Manhattan are a result of that collapse. There has also been an attack on the Pentagon, as we understand it, in Washington, D.C. From what Helen Wright was saying about this attack in Washington, D.C., it was a helicopter that landed. Now, either, of course, the helicopter could have exploded, or it could have contained people who were carrying explosions to damage the Pentagon. Yes, obviously, it's too early, really, to guess at the source of the attack on the Pentagon. But again, being at the heart of the American military establishment, sitting on the banks of the Potomac River, within sight of the White House, and right in the center of Washington itself, it is, because of its very nature, very heavily guarded building, and so probably the only way that it could have been attacked would have been from the air, be it a helicopter or be it a suicide plane attack. We can see the scale of the devastation in Manhattan. Let's also take a look at the Pentagon building in Washington, D.C., and there we see again the plumes of smoke rising, acrid smoke rising from the center of Washington, D.C., from the Pentagon building, which, as we understand it, has also been the focus of a terrorist attack. Other major cities in the U.S. are now being evacuated, virtually closed down. The Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated. America is under siege. That's the state it finds itself in this morning. And again, in New York, we see these spreading clouds of dust and smoke and fumes engulfing the whole of Manhattan this morning. That, of course, is this morning New York time. It was a very busy time in Battersea Park, the financial district of New York. People starting off their day in the financial district, getting down to work at 7:45 in the morning, when one passenger plane struck the side of one of the Twin Towers, and then minutes later another one struck, and we're seeing the devastation that was caused as a result. Kevin, presumably there is very little, or is there very little, that the government can do about potential aerial attacks by terrorists? Certainly when it comes to the Pentagon, is there anything they can put in place? Well, as I said, the initial priority will be to deal with the situation on the ground and try and resolve this terrible tragedy and care for the people and the casualties on the ground, who must be in their hundreds. Each of these airliners alone can carry several hundred passengers. But the questions, when they come, will come thick and fast. America has always prided itself on security at its airports. Airlines themselves are notoriously security conscious, as every passenger will know who's been in and out of American airports. And then, of course, there's a question of air traffic.
Well, by a third plane, also we believe hijacked in the Boston area. In addition to the White House and the Treasury Department being evacuated. We're seeing pictures on the ground now in Washington, D.C. These are pictures of the Pentagon, which of course is the headquarters for the American military, an area of extraordinary security. The idea that planes could have been able to cross over Washington, D.C. airspace and crash anywhere near the Pentagon will come as a horrendous shock